Well, good morning and welcome to another vlog. Today I'm going to do a 6-month review, and the 6-month review, believe it or not, is actually on the D850. Have I really had it that long? And with this review I've had to take it to a beautiful location. I'm at Nant Mill. And yes, I know you tuned into this channel to go through the D850 review, but let's just take in this beautiful scenery before we start the serious stuff. I just love the way the roots are growing out the side of this this hill. It's amazing. So beautiful here. Weather-wise today, we've got a beautiful clear morning. You can probably tell by that that drive in. There's hardly a cloud in the sky. However, looking up above us now, it's starting to cloud over behind. But the sun is just behind you guys now, so yeah, hopefully it should be a bit of a bright morning, plenty of mottled light throughout the forest, and yeah, just get something a little bit different than last time. I do believe this afternoon is meant to be fully clouded over, so yeah, let's shoot while we can. So I hope you can hear me over the rushing water. I'm stood on a little island at the moment. I've got a little bit of a waterfall behind me and a waterfall behind you guys, and the main feature in the distance. So I've been here about an hour and a half. No, it's actually about an hour and 3/4. And the light, it just isn't happening here. It's very sheltered, it's very shaded here. So we're getting a little bit of mottled light, not as much as I anticipated. So my exposures, they're coming in round about, well, between 10 and 5 seconds, depending on the ISO. I'm trying to keep the ISO low as I can, try and eradicate any of the grain. So I've got it around about ISO 64 to ISO 200, just depending on what shot I'm going to work. But yeah, I just can't stop shooting here. It's absolutely amazing. You've got sort of like almost 3 tiers of waterfalls, well, 4 including the main one, and it's just so picturesque. You've got that lovely moss on the rocks. You've got the water sort of working its way through. You've got some old leaves just sort of on top of that as well, and then you've got the main waterfall at the back. It's just beautiful, this location. I've seen so many images taken from here, but they all seem to be very, very similar. So yeah, I'm just after something a little bit different. Those who know my photography, I tend to go to these locations and just look for something a little bit more unique, and that's exactly what I'm trying to do this morning. Whether it's working or not, I don't know. But yeah, I'm just going to keep on shooting for the next possible hour or so and see where we'll get to. There is a weir further down, which I'm probably going to venture down to in a little bit. And on the way, I'll sort of discuss the sort of pros and cons of the D850 and whether it's actually worth investing into this sort of pro level camera. Oh, it's absolutely stunning. Right, more photography, catch you in a little bit. just got away from the sound of that rushing water. It's a bit overpowering when you're there all morning. So 6 months on since I first used the D850. As I said in my first review, the reason why I bought the D850 is because it was the camera I wanted. I went to the photography show and used it on one of the stands there, and it was just sort of a bit of an inspiration to work to, something to sort of save up. And yeah, once I got better in my photography, once I knew I was ready to get the D850, that's when it was time to buy it. So 6 months ago, I made the purchase. I took the leap of faith and I thought, yes, let's buy the D850 and see what it can do and see if it's worth what I'd sort of hyped in my mind. And is it worth it? Would I recommend to go out and purchase a D850? And I guess with any type of gear, that's all it is just gear. It's a tool, it's a thing to actually create images, create video, create sound, do whatever you need to do. And I think that's what you need to review. Actually, ask yourself, do I need a better tool that's actually going to make this job any easier or any better? So what do I like about the D850? Well, the image quality is just second to none. There was no doubt about that. It does deliver exactly what I thought it would. So the image quality is definitely a thumbs up. Shooting full frame is something I really love. A lot of my images are taken with my 12-24 lens. Currently today I'm shooting with the 24-70 with this waterfall, but yeah, I normally like to shoot with the 12-24, and because you've got the large sensor, yeah, it's a full 12 millimeters. So yeah, that's absolutely great. So a large sensor, thumbs up. The ISO settings, I generally have it on ISO 64, but you can go even lower on that camera. And certainly on a day like today, when you're trying to get a little bit of movement in the water, if it was a bright sunny day, we've got a little bit of mottled light, but yeah, if we were in bright harsh conditions, the lower the ISO, the sort of longer you can have the shutter speed open. And going down to ISO 64 and beyond, if needed, yeah, is a real win. So yeah, another thumbs up. And just the way it feels, I do love the feel of the Nikon cameras. Yes, it's a bit of a weighty camera, and certainly with the f2.8 lenses I've got, the Holy Trinity lenses, they are a bit heavy, but I do like that. I do like to feel the weight in my hands. It makes it feel a little bit more sturdy. So the whole feel of it, another thumbs up. But the best thing about the Nikon D850 is that dynamic range. It's absolutely phenomenal. If you expose for the highlights, any shadows can be brought up from absolutely nothing. That's one thing that I've really been impressed with. Now the D7200 and the Nikon D810 were both very, very good, but this is just in a league of its own. So yeah, you expose for the highlights and that camera will serve you well. But now for the bad points. I don't think we could really do this review, an honest review, without actually bringing something or a few points up that I'm not too happy with on the camera. It would only be fair. Number one, that tilt screen. I just think it's a half-arsed effort from Nikon. I think they could have done a lot better. It's great when you're shooting low down and if you're shooting in landscape mode, but if you start turning it into portrait, it becomes pointless. It's useless. You can't even see it. There are other camera brands out there that do a lot better. Certainly if you're going to vlog from those cameras, you can sort of flip the screen around to meet the front and all sorts, lots of weird and wonderful ways. That just sort of pops out, and it's a touchscreen sensitive thing, which, to be honest, since I bought it, I've turned the sensitivity off, so the screen's locked. So it's pointless me being able to touch that screen. Yeah, it just feels as if it's not right. Oh, and another issue with that pop-up screen, I'm absolutely scared to death of leaving it out and knocking it, either knocking it with my knee, knocking it with my hand and breaking it. Once that's broken, I imagine it's not going to be cheap to fix. I've gone to a number of shoots and I've had to play around just to sort of see whether I could get used to using that touchscreen, but it almost feels hypersensitive. You sort of hover your finger over it and it takes a shot. Maybe somebody else, it could be different, but for me, no. I've locked that screen off and I just use the buttons the old school way. So I've mentioned image quality, and yes, the image quality is second to none. It's absolutely fantastic. But on the downside of that, the amount of space it actually takes on the SD card and the computer as well, and the processing power to actually process these images. This isn't an issue when I'm processing them on the iMac. I've got quite a powerful iMac. It's got quite a few upgrades on there as well. So when I put them into the iMac, yeah, it processes them quite easily. But if I'm out on the go, if I'm out away and I start processing images on my little laptop, then yeah, it really starts to struggle. Everything just becomes slow, everything just becomes a little bit, yeah, just sort of tedious trying to get the images first of all on, then process them, run them through Photoshop, and yeah, do what you need to do with them. So yeah, processing the images from the Nikon D850 can be tiresome if you haven't got a computer that can process that file of image, that size. One of the biggest drawbacks of the D850, and this is my personal thing, is I don't feel as confident taking it out when I'm doing things like a bike ride or into locations where I'm out with the family, just in case it gets damaged. Now I know that's daft because it's insured and what have you, but I would rather come out with the D7200, a camera I've rebuilt myself. I've stripped down and rebuilt it after I've dropped it a number of times and rebuilt. That camera means more to me than the D850 ever will. Whether the D850 will ever take the D7200's place, let's hope I don't damage it. But just because the price and the value of that thing is so much more than the D7200, yeah, you've got to ask yourself, is it safe to take out? Now I know that's my personal issue, and if you haven't got the luxury of having two cameras, yes, the D850 you will take everywhere with you because it is just a phenomenal camera. It's a camera that just will not struggle in getting any type of image in any type of light. But that's basically it. That's only the real negatives I've found. It's just the size of the files and that ridiculous back screen. But apart from that, I mean, bear in mind we are talking about a best part of a 7-year-old camera now. And yes, there are a lot more newer on the market. Everything's going mirrorless and everybody's saying how amazing all the new Nikon mirrorless cameras are, the Olympus cameras, Sony's, everything else. And yeah, they're not a comparison to what I've got there because that is 7-year-old. It's 7-year-old technology that I'm using, you know, still today. And yes, I noticed a few people commented just because the camera is getting old or is an older camera doesn't mean it's not as good. And yes, I completely stand by that, but a lot of the features that these newer cameras have, that doesn't have. But then you also pay a premium price for these new features. Is it worth it? Possibly not. So why did I purchase a D850? Well, I did have the Nikon D810 and I bought that used, same as I did the D850. But that fell into water, got damaged, insurance company paid out, and yeah, I had additional cash to purchase a new camera with. But rewind back a couple of cameras ago, when I had the Nikon D7200, was the D810 any better than the D7200? Well, it was, but it wasn't. And the same can be said for the Nikon D850. Yes, the resolution is better. Yes, you've got all those megapixels of 45 megapixels versus a 24 on the D7200. But is the camera actually any better? I guess proof is in the pudding. And some of those images I've just shown, were from the D7200. Have you been able to guess which ones? I'll show them now. So I've just noticed now we're getting quite good light on the waterfall. So I'm just going to stop, take a couple of images, and I'll rejoin you in a little bit. So I've seen it all now. There's 4 or 5 ladies that have just gone in there to do some yeah, chill dipping or whatever they call it. Yeah, they're all in their swimwear in there. So yeah, just leave them to it. So whilst the ladies are taking a dip, I'll come up here and give them a bit of privacy. So I guess the question would be, would I buy this camera again? And for the past 6 months I've been asking myself this question, and I think if I'm asking myself this question, I probably wouldn't have. But Ben, you said the dynamic range is absolutely amazing and it does everything that you wanted it to do, and it was the camera that you wanted. Why wouldn't you buy it again? It's getting more and more crowded down there, obviously, with all the women that's, I was going to say skinny dipping, they're not skinny dipping, but yeah, in chill dipping or whatever you want to call it. Everybody's sort of walking down there, sort of seeing what all the commotion is, because yeah, as you can imagine, they're screaming a lot and making a lot of racket. So I'm going to move on. I'm going to head down towards the next weir, further down the path. I know a lot of people say that you know, gear doesn't matter, and I think that's the main subject on YouTube on photography, is everybody saying how gear doesn't matter. And I think with my journey with this Nikon D850, I think that kind of backs it up a little bit more. So does that mean I'm going to be selling my D850 to continue using my D7200? No, it's not. And don't get me wrong, the D850 is a phenomenal camera, but it's not that big of a jump from the old Nikon D7200. So if I could put it into one sentence, I would have to say it's just the same, but slightly better. So the first video I did back in December, the original review on this camera, absolutely took off on YouTube like nothing else. I think currently it's got over 19,000 views. So thank you to everybody who's viewed that, and hopefully this video will be as successful. But that's not the reason I've done this video. I just thought it would be important just to give a 6-month review of my honest opinion of this camera. Is it actually worth purchasing? And I suppose up to now I've been quite wishy-washy with the pros and cons, but there's really not that much to talk about. It's a camera that takes images very well, but it is just a camera that takes images. I think whatever you're happy, whatever system you're happy with, and whatever you're used to, continue using it. And then if you feel you're due an upgrade, if you feel you've moved on from that camera, you've done everything that camera can do, and you want to, I don't know, progress a little bit more and make your images a slightly better quality, a little bit sharper, things like that, then yeah, have a look around. But really have a good old test of cameras. Use friends' cameras, have a shop around, and understand actually what you're going to be purchasing. Because after all, it's a lot of money. And I guess it's like anything else, any hobby, any pastime that you do, the more you get into it, the more involved you get into it, and the more you enjoy it, it's worth spending the money and getting the better gear. So that's a proper cross message, isn't it, when I say that gear doesn't matter? But I hope you get the drift. Now, I've said this before and I will say it time and time again, do not buy, or don't buy this camera just because somebody's reviewed it on YouTube, or you've seen somebody else sort of give it the best marks in the world, or the worst score in the world. Make a decision for yourself, and I think it's important to gather information, sort of watch these videos and understand, certainly if you're in a market for a new camera, what's right for you. The D850 was right for me at the time. So I'm making my way down to the weir. It's not that impressive, but it's worth sort of taking a shot from here. It's certainly not as impressive as the main waterfall that we've just shot. But yeah, I think with this light, I think with the mottled light, I think we're getting a bit of cloud now. But yeah, whilst I've been in the sort of forest area, we've had quite a lot of mottled light. So it'll be interesting to see what we can get from here, from the second location. But yeah, as you can probably tell by the light on my face now, the sun's out, then it's in, then it's out, then it's hidden behind trees. It's a real mixed bag. Let me know in the comments if you've got the D850 or any of the Nikon brand, or what your preference is to any sort of brand really. It's always interesting to find out what people are using, what people's setups are. A number of questions were, what lenses do I use with the Nikon D850? Well, I've slowly built up my the Holy Trinity. So they're all f2.8 lenses. I've got the 12-24, the 24-70, and the 70-200, and they're the main lenses I've used. I also got the 50mm. That's a must. But I use those lenses on both of my cameras, on the 70-200 and the D850. And I know I keep going on about the 70-200, but you put those lenses on that, it's good. It's very, very good. So if you're new to this channel, my name's Ben, and I'm a landscape. So if you're new to this channel, my name's Ben, and I'm a landscape. I can't say landscape. Why can't I say landscape? Let's try again, take two. So, for those of you new to the channel, my name's Ben. I'm a landscape photographer based in the northwest of England and try and get out to locations once a week when I can to shoot these sort of beautiful locations. I'm not a channel that necessarily does reviews. I've done one review on the well, I've done a couple of reviews now on gear I've got, but I think it's beneficial for you guys to know what I'm using and how I use it, and yeah, what can actually get out the gear. So welcome to the channel. If you haven't done so already, please consider subscribing. It'd be great to have you on board of the channel, and if you're liking this video so far, why not give me the thumbs up. So I'm at the second part of my location now, and yeah, just going to take a couple of images here. One of the questions that was asked in my previous review, my first review of the D850, was about the battery life, whether the battery life was any good, and I've not noticed any difference between this or any of the cameras really. I normally find that if I'm constantly shooting, if I'm bracketing shots, not that I need to bracket as many shots with the D850, but if I'm doing sort of panos, sort of focus stacking, things like that, taking a number of images to get one image, then yeah, it's like any other camera, it will eat away the batteries. But yeah, I'm not finding any real concerns with using batteries. I've got three, I think actually four batteries available to me at any one time, which I always bring out, and yeah, over a course of 2 or 3 days I've never used them all. If I'm coming out on a day like today, I will possibly use a full battery and a little bit of another one, but yeah, within that it's probably about 200-300 shots. So battery life isn't really a concern. Okay, a top photography tip for you. If you're kneeling down in water, just make sure your bum stays out of the water. It's uncomfortable. Another feature that I don't particularly use is on the back of the D850 is this joystick. Now, one thing I noticed that a lot of people, when it first came out, a lot of people were reviewing it saying that the joystick feature on the back of the camera was fantastic, the best I'd ever used. But I've got to say, I don't think I've ever used it. I think it's possibly quicker for working out where your focus point's going to be, things like that. But yeah, I just used the dial, the actual dial on the back of the camera anyway, instead of using that. I don't know, they both do the same job, and I'm not really sure the benefits of using the joystick. I never mentioned this in the pros part, but one of the best features of the D850 over the 7200 or the D810 is the way the back buttons illuminate. That is a feature that should be on all cameras. I don't understand why you've got to get onto that sort of level of camera before you get that feature, because in the dark you're sort of fiddling around trying to get your little torch working, things like that. When you've got those buttons illuminated, you know exactly where you are, you know where the buttons are, and yeah, it just makes life so much more simpler. It's actually really noisy here with the water, so again, apologies if I'm just talking to myself and you actually can't hear me, but I'll try. So I'm just focusing now. There's a log or a bit of a stick branch that's pointing into the waterfall. Now I'm just waiting just to get a little bit of light on the branch and just sort of highlight it quite nicely against the white of the water in the background. So I think this is probably going to be my final shot of the day. So yeah, it's just a case of just standing here waiting for the sun, just to give a little bit of a brief appearance. But yeah, like I say, it's gone a little bit overcast as the weather forecast said it would be, but Yeah, just loving it. I absolutely love this location. It's only the second time I've been here. First time it was a little bit dull, a little bit grey, but now it's got promise. Yeah, it's just phenomenal. Absolutely great here. If you've never been, it's Nant Mill. My voice is going for shouting. It's Nant Mill in Wrexham, just outside of Wrexham. It's just off the A55. It's not hard to get to. Bit of a windy road as you come off, but excuse me. A bit of a windy road as you get off and as you come to, but it's well signposted, and it's £1 to park all day, or you can stick it on the main road there, and I think you don't get bothered. So yeah, up to you whether you want to pay the pound or not. So I'm just going to stick around here, wait for a bit of light, and yeah, we'll see what we get when that happens, if it happens. So I hope this has given you a bit of insight to what it's like owning the Nikon D850, certainly after 6 months. Don't forget I bought this camera used and it had a shutter count of less than 4,000. And I only paid £1,800 for it, so it was a bargain. And I think since then they've further been reduced. So if you're looking for a professional quality camera, you can't go wrong with the D850. But if it's just for an upgrade, you've got to ask yourself a question: is it really needed? So it's probably time to finish this vlog cum review from Nant Mill. If you've enjoyed this video, please give me the thumbs up, and if you haven't done so already, please consider subscribing. It would be great to have you on board of the channel. And also leave a note in the comments and let me know who you are, where you're from, and what camera setup you use, and whether you've actually used the D850 or consider buying one. It'd be great to hear. So from Nant Mill, on this rather glorious day, it's time to finish. All the best, take care, see you very, very soon. Bye bye now.